And welcome back. Right. I'm back out in the hobby hole. Right, fellas, it's time to wrap this up.
It is, yeah.
Right, so who will we start with? John, we'll start with you, mate, yeah?
Yeah.
So where had we left it? We had done the dip stage, so we were left with a glossy marine.
We were, yeah. So if producer can throw up my camera there so I can see that, that's it. So that's what we're left with once the dip is dry.
Yeah.
These will have to have been left for about 5-6 hours, maybe possibly 8-9 hours.
It's maybe worth leaving them for the full 24,
yeah,
isn't
the
it?
full 24, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a few comments on Twitch and a few people saying, don't judge it until you've seen the matte coat and stuff on it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where we're going to be going with it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So in my airbrush, I've made up another little mix with the anti-shine matte varnish, the pot, with a little bit of airbrush thinner mixed in with that.
Yeah.
So that we can put it through the brush.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason I know I will bring this over here then.
Yeah.
So the reason that I'm not using the spray can is that sometimes I've noticed in a couple of my previous projects that if you don't leave it long enough, if you don't leave it the full 24 hours...
You mean leaving the dip? Yeah.
If you don't leave it the full 24 hours and then you spray it with the matte varnish, it sometimes lifts the paint and cracks. And
it can react, can it?
It can react, yeah, and then it ruins the whole thing.
There's a touch test as well. If the dip's at all tacky when you're touching it, don't matte coat it because it hasn't finished curing, and then it's trying to cure underneath another coating that you've put on.
Yeah.
And causes a reaction on the thing.
That's right.
The other thing is that sometimes environmental factors can come into play
humidity
a bit as well. Humidity, the big one on the matte spray.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of mitigate that, you're going very light with the matte spray and taking it through the airbrush instead. Then, yeah,
exactly.
Okay, well, can we see that in action?
This should be the point where you realize that the dip step is actually really worth it on the model. So we'll start. I'll try and find a nice glossy part there. That shoulder pad looks good, doesn't it?
So you're going quite light with this, John, keeping the airbrush kind of moving around again.
Yeah, because you don't want it to pull too much. Otherwise, it's, as you can see on the shoulder pad, it's pulled a little bit, so it's gone a little shiny until it dries.
Yeah.
But the going quite light with it gives you an instant.
It's an instantaneous matte finish, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's a really nice finish too. So.
Now this is the point when we really are starting to get to the artwork that inspired us all from the start.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can grab that. Remember, this is what we were going for. So this was the palette that we were chasing. So Lloyd will take us through the basing very shortly, but you can see that kind of saturated, heavy feel, but it's still quite pristine. We're not looking at complete chipped, battle-ravaged kind of power armor here.
Yeah. But I mean, you can, because there's plenty of people I've seen do their pre-Heresy stuff with a lot of battle damage and stuff on it. But at the same time, I kind of like the cleaner look, but like the nicely shaded and sort of the desaturated look in this case. Because my friend Leiden and I were chatting about it, because I'm starting to get into Heresy as a hobby as well as doing this. And the first thing I said was what I liked about Heresy was it was the end of the age of optimism. Mm-hmm. So everything was good, everything was great, they all looked fantastic, they had this big persona about them.
And you were glad to see that come to an end.
And that's when it shattered. That's when the smiles went away.
That is so John, isn't it? It's like, I was glad to see all that crap come to an end. I could get my frown on. Go and do your Judge Dredd frown there, so...
Enough of the smiles.
Yes.
So,
have we anything on the feeds that you want to say, Justin?
Yes, you have Gas Dunham saying, surely for the next show, Ben needs to have a screen mounted on wheels so he can be rolled around the room so we get more Ben. This is from Ben.
Get donating, and we will get a screen on wheels, and we just wheel Ben in. Robo Ben, yeah.
We have one from Benjamin. He's asking what type of airbrush you're using tonight, John.
Right.
Very important thing.
Yeah. So this one I'm using a Spar Max 4.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a couple of Iwatas in the studio as well, but the Smarmax is just really nice too.
Yeah, you don't need expensive airbrushes for
No.
what we're doing here.
No.
You know, it's
What sort of compressor are we connecting it to?
We're running an Iwata dual compressor, so it's a single compressor unit that has 2 ports for 2 airbrushes to run simultaneously.
yeah.
Only
Again,
we had 2 airbrushes.
If only we
out
had
here,
2 of
now,
the
the only reason we're
airbrushes.
running that is because it kind of is just the one that we utilize in
Yeah.
here. But Justin, you got an airbrush at Christmas.
Yeah, it's been criminal. I really need to get back to that, but it is a great little thing. It's got a decent little air tank. I will say with the cheaper ones, you will find that it will constantly start to run up again. It'll lose the air pressure a little quicker than some of the more expensive stuff, but you can work with it just fine.
That's to do with the size of the tank. The other thing they can do is overheat and cut out a little bit.
Yeah.
Aye, but that's more of a safety feature. So it's
Yeah, I'm not
actually-
saying it's a
it's actually
problem.
Got that designed into it to have a thermostat on-off switch. Whenever it's too hot, it doesn't run.
Yeah.
Which is perfect.
But there's there's nothing too complicated about what we're doing in this, and some of the budget, you know, realistically, a 70 quid airbrush and compressor set is going to have no difficulty doing this. It's just about you getting a little bit of practice, but really, you're just kind of dusting. If you know how to use a spray can,
You can do this.
You can do this.
Yeah.
The one piece of advice I will give anyone that's thinking of getting an airbrush, get one of the wee ultrasonic cleaners. That thing has saved my life so many times whenever I've not properly cleaned my airbrush out. It works.
So okay. So you've just dropped it into the ultrasonic cleaner and let it do its thing.
Break it down, put it in, run it through maybe 3, 4, 5 times, done.
What is an ultrasonic cleaner, Justin? Is it for cleaning jewelry? Is that what it's for?
Yeah, that's what they're for, yeah.
So this is just something you buy off the shelf? It's
Yeah.
not a specialist thing?
Yeah, they cost about 20, 30 pounds. You can pick them up on eBay. Just make sure you get one that's a reasonable size so you can actually fit the components of your airbrush in it. Remember, the longest component in your airbrush is your needle.
Yep.
And you'll want to be able to chuck your needle in there to get the bits off.
Mhm.
That's the final step of that.
That's the final step now. You can see the comparison between the Mark III and the Mark IV guy. So
Mhm.
the Mark IV guy is the guy we just done, and you can just see how much gloss there is when you let the dip dry and it's all there before you put any matte varnish on it.
Yeah. Now, if you turn them around to the back, we can start to see the shading in around the back kind of panels and things
Yep.
like that.
In particularly the panel lines, that's what the dip is primarily being put on the models for, is to pick out all those parts that you don't want to pin wash. You don't have the time to pin wash yourself.
Yeah, not when you're doing full armies.
Yeah,
Not when
exactly.
you're doing full armies. So you could go heavier with the dip if you wanted to. In this instance, so we're going quite light, but it's not only about the shading. You get the full protection
Yep.
of that gloss coat. Right, Lloydie.
Yes.
Over to you.
Okay, so I've been working on the bases, as you know. You've seen the artwork. So it was a case of let's try and come up with basing that matches the artwork.
Yep.
So if I just bring them in, I have a set of bases here. They're all done, bar the ones that we're just showing here. Let me try and fit them all.
artwork for you to look at. So there we go.
So do you see the way it's sort of a muted sort of tones and stuff again?
I
so
really like this because I thought that the soft tone of it really complemented the saturated look of the Space Marine himself. I just thought, yeah, we've got to try and replicate that in some degree. If not the texture, it was the palette that I wanted us to replicate.
yeah, and I think we've done quite a good job here, just going from in very simple steps. Obviously, seen earlier, building the base. Then it was a matter of just spray them with the scaly bone.
So that's Army Painter Skeleton Bone, yeah?
Yes, skeleton bone spray.
Mm-hmm.
Then we moved on from that phase, and we put a soft tone wash.
Well, let me hold
all
this
over
and
it.
you can do that. So if you put some
Yes,
on.
so I'll take this from this stage to this stage.
Yeah.
So it's very simple. Wash. Base in. Put on a blob. So we can get started. So let me take a brush. Let me just check this is clean. Yep. And put it on like this. Just dollop it in.
Oh wow, you're going quite heavy with it.
Yeah, but I will clean that up in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you want to do is you want to get it into the gaps along the edges. Okay, because the cork has lots of little nooks and crannies to get into.
Yeah.
And everything's just a flat color at the moment.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you put quite a lot in around the edges, it'll get down into the recesses.
Yeah.
And then you'll get darker sides and a lighter top, so you get more definition to your rocks.
Right.
Okay. You can be a little bit more careful with it, but I'm doing it live on camera here, so I'm just trying to rattle through it here. Okay, so getting it onto all the nooks and crannies along the top, like that. Okay. So now we will come to a step where we clean this up a bit, because we don't want that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's imagine I've done all of that. Okay, now I'm going to do is take a heavy brush here. This one. Okay, and anywhere where I don't want it to be that heavy, I can simply take the brush. I have a bit of kitchen roll here, and I just take.
Oh, you can just you're just wiping it off.
I just take the wash back off.
Yeah.
Okay, and that way you can get pools into the nooks and crannies of the rocks, but remove them from the dusty sort of wasteland top. Because if you leave it there, you get kind of big brown sort of tide marky patches. But that it doesn't matter if it's like that in the nooks and crannies, because that's exactly
That's where you would get your natural
like what
shading.
you want.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you let that dry off, and you end up with this.
Okay. Then what?
Well, it's very simple. Then you take this, and you're going to work it up to look like that. And that's just a dry brush of Army Painter Ash Grey. Like so. So, get a dollop of that. Put it on there. I'm not using a wet palette for this because I'm dry brushing on it. I just like to keep the paint a little drier. Then I have a brush here. Now that used to be a pointer brush, and then I just sliced off the end to make a bigger, flatter brush for my dry brushing.
Is that one of the kind of the cheapy brushes that you pick up in an art store or something?
I think it is, yeah. Which is just perfect for this sort of almost terrain-like dry brushing. So I've taken most of it off, and you just dry brush along it, turn it over to get along the edges, because it adds even more contrast. So your shading pops even more. But you can do it over the top. I mostly just do it sort of on the edges, like so. Get a bit more on there. The flat areas, make sure you get those. And that's it. That's all there is to it. If you go anywhere too heavy and you think, I don't really like that, you can kind of put a little bit of Scam Boom back on, and then maybe you could just drop a bit of wash back on again if you wanted to. Yeah. But essentially, that's it. Those are the steps. Yeah. We did have, when we were first coming up with a scheme for it, we had something that's like 6 steps, and then we were talking about it going, no, we've got quite a lot of these to do. Let's try and distill that down. So now we've got build it, spray it, wash it, dry brush it, 4 steps, plus painting brown around the edge.
Yeah, bring in the base there.
Which is the final step.
And we went for brown as opposed to a black because we wanted to try and frame the piece. Like if we have a character here, we can drop them on that. Just to try and
I'll hold them.
Frame it.
If you can go to.
We should go to our main camera there. Can we? Here, let's see if we can get in a bit. Yeah. Okay, let's see. There you go. And the brown is there to provide that contrast to frame the miniature itself. And
I think we've done good on the color. If we go back to the overhead cam, I think we've got really nice tones that match the book really well there, without it being a complicated process. I mean, earlier we were out going, "Oh, you better get a move on," but yet here we are, not so long later, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 10. 10. Yeah, 10 because there's 10 Terminators sitting over there or something, leading fancy bases.
And you're notoriously slow.
I am not notoriously slow. There's a difference between being slow and being meticulous.
Yeah. Right. If you bugger it up, right? If you've went too hard on the wash, for example, you have a means of kind of saving that, don't you?
A means of toning it back. Yeah. All of these are pretty much perfect, if I do say so myself. But we have this weathering powder here.
From Secret Weapon.
Yep. Clay brown. Okay. And if you just pop the lid, you get the idea of the color of it. Now, if there's anywhere that's too dark on a base, these don't have it because I did a really good job of taking off the off.
Well done, you.
pools.
Yeah, well done, you.
But if it is the case, you can just pop on a little bit of. You would find where the pool is
Yeah.
and put a little bit of that powdered in, and what happens is it'll sit down into the recesses where the actual wash is set.
Yeah.
So it's not really darkening the top where you've just dry brushed.
The pigment powder's fine enough to get down to where the problem actually is.
Yeah, and it's fine enough that when you start lifting it and playing with it and whatnot, you could probably spray that with a matte coat anyway to lock it in there a bit. But most of it just stays there.
With the texture of the base, with the actual baking soda, that's not going to come off anyway. No. Yeah.
No, it's going to be stuck down in there. Quite a lot of work to try and suck that back out. You're not gonna
Okay.
do that in a hurry.
Yeah. That is that. Justin, have we any final comments now before we call it a night?
Have a couple of good ones. So,
Right. We'll talk as we walk.
Okay, so we have an important one from our buddy Jack about the compressor.
Mm-hmm.
The particular one we use has those two separate points that you can actually hook up an airbrush to. So you can set the pressure on those independently.
Yeah.
So you can actually have one of them set to low pressure for your actual paint work, because he likes to work at low pressure. And then you can have the other one set to high pressure for when you're cleaning.
Ah.
Clever idea,
for
yeah?
cleaning out the airbrush.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right, we then have, now, I apologize if I mangle your last name, Steve Juranich. Greetings from West Coast USA. He played a bit of hooky today. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Yep. Especially during the American hour.
Yeah. Commissar Holt, you could go as far as hand painting the gold in a gloss again. The Emperor would approve to actually bring it back up a little higher if you really want
If
it.
you wanted to, yep.
Again, it's all about how far you want to take an army, how much you want to put into it to get your final result. Bigger stuff, you'll take it to a level, but you can always revisit it.
Yeah, well, there's another step that John typically does, which is a final highlight stage. John, do you want to quickly talk about that? Because it's kind of optional at this stage, but it does make a little difference. So,
Yeah, well, I'll quickly. Okay, how many mics am I using?
okay, you get it in
All
there,
of
John.
them. Okay, so we can bring up the close again, if you could, please. Thank you. So on this side, you can see I've applied what's essentially a very small hard edge highlight. You see to the top of the knee pad and to the back of the leg here, and so on like that. And it particularly comes up well on the arm and on the elbow pad as well. And all it's doing is just redefining the shape or the edge of the shape of that part. And hang on a wee sec. I particularly like doing it on the actual faceplate as well. I like putting stuff on faces. So.
Well, it's faces and bases,
Faces,
John, isn't
faces
it?
and bases.
Mhm.
A lot of people would be hard edging everything, and I think that's too much. So let's see. Is that even in shot? I just have to make sure that's good. I'm having to concentrate there a little bit, but
Yeah.
just get a little bit of definition on the faceplate, and you can go over the tops of the eyes and the top vent on the helmet as well. So
Yeah.
I'll show one that has everything done.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also given the gun a bit of a dry brush there in the end as well, just to
pull
highlight that up as well.
the metallics of it.
But I think the hard edge highlighting step, just picking up those really higher level detail areas is perfect. You don't need to go all over the model. You don't need to cover every single edge if you don't want
The
to.
thing about this is, right, you can come back to your models at any stage and do that.
Yep.
The same with other additional details or other things that you want to pull out. You know, if you use the army painter method up until the matte coat, you've got a playable army. And then 99% of people never really notice. But if you want to go in and add just that little bit more pizzazz, at that stage you can go back anytime and do it. Right, we have a few over here. If we can pull that out, there you go.
I love that.
So if we
I'll come
bring
around to Lloyd.
Mr. Cameraman over here. So Lloyd, we actually have one of our 20-man squads all laid out now, so as we can get a look at them.
Yeah, I think it's turned out fabulous. It looks really good here. Even on the grey, because I was thinking, I was kind of concerned when we set them on grey, will they just disappear? But they actually look really, really nice, especially the wee gold glints and stuff. And I actually quite like the gold, even with the matte coat over it. I think it almost looks like, do you know the way you can paint non-metallic sort of metallics?
Yeah.
It kind of gives it that more knocked back thing, because I don't really like shiny models at all in any fashion, and I really like what has happened here. But yeah, if we pan back out, we can pan around the table. We've got quite a lot of things sitting here on the table
Yeah.
from various places, Justin.
Yeah, I was asked to throw together a nice city table, and I couldn't think of anything better to put down than some of the stuff from our buddies at Game Mat EU that do some beautiful Gothic stuff.
Ah, right.
Really nice stuff, that.
Well, no doubt we'll be showing this off on a Warren Meets Matt at
Of
some
course,
point shortly.
Of course.
That's
of
just
course.
mad looking. Look at it.
Yeah, they're
And
huge.
does this come
too.
like this, Justin?
Yeah, it comes out of the box. Well, you have the option. You can get it like this, or you can get it unpainted.
Uh-huh.
The other thing I put out was some of the nice Battlefield in the box stuff.
Yes.
Which it
Old
works
faithful.
on,
yeah.
pretty much. And this particular table is one of interest, because
Yes.
this is one that you guys actually still need to finish.
Yes, we do. If Dead Dave, one of the community members, is watching,
Yes.
he has started this project himself and is now screaming out, Lloyd, saying,
Part three.
I need the last episode. I need the last episode." So, Dead Dave, we will do our best to try and get that last episode. Maybe do it during a Hobby Night Live, Lloyd. What do you think?
I love what he's done with the round table.
Yeah.
And I was looking at him, why has he done a round table? And he popped it on his coffee table, and I was like, I see why he's done a
Yeah,
round
it's
table.
in the
but
forums,
it's really
isn't it?
interesting looking.
Yeah, it's in the forum. So if you want, go in and check it out. Right. We are done for this evening. It is now 12:15. Look,
We've made it.
Thank you for everybody who tuned in. We'll go and do a debrief on Monday when we start to work out some bits and pieces we can improve, so to try and even make the stream a bit more stable or whatever. But look, it's been absolutely fabulous playing with you tonight. This is a way for us to reach out and touch you like never before.
Oh, we're all here.
And I'm not even talking figuratively either. So it's like okay. So a big thanks to the whole crew. Thank you, Tom, on camera. His poor back is nearly broke. Thank you to Lance over in the control room.
Cheers,
Tom,
Lance.
over to Lance. Lance, give us a wave there. There we go. A massive thank you to AJ for coming up and joining us tonight.
It's been a pleasure.
And of course, thanks to Smile John, Justin, and of course, Lloyd.
This smile cracks me up, because we made a little intro for it, and the camera, I swear it was going to break.
Yeah.
I felt sore. I was in pain.
Right. Remember, we have 2 more prizes that we're going to be giving away, but they'll be awarded on Monday. We will pick the winner on Monday. The whole purpose of Hobby Night Live is for us all to hobby together and to fire up a hobby weekend for you guys. So we keep going into the thread, posting the updates of stuff that you get done. Don't kill yourself. This is supposed to be fun. But post your updates in there. Ben will hop on the Monday and look through, and then based on kind of levels of participation and some other factors, he will pick a runner-up who will get the final $30 Army Painter voucher, and a winner who's going to get that foreground building.
I'm really looking forward to it, because there was stuff getting whacked into the forum even before we started, hours before we started.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to watching that the whole weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a blast.
Absolutely.
You have been watching Hobby Night Live.